Welcome back. This is Create by Fire, and this is monthly monetization, month 2. We'll be covering video by video everything that was created during October to see the 30-day plus growth, anything that was created during November to see the initial stats, and any video that has notable change. We'll also cover channel stats, Amazon affiliate link stats, and the trajectory based on the current growth. So let's get into it. All right, so we'll go ahead and start chronological order, and we'll start with this video here. I know this one was from September, but it was in the last month's monthly monetization, so we'll go ahead and start there. But we will zip by these first two since they already had 1 month of duration already. But we'll go ahead and jump over to the analytics, and we'll add in average view duration as well as average view or average percentage viewed. And this is mostly the same. I'm going to actually put the old stats right below this. They're mostly the same. The main difference is that there's a few more views. Last month there were 158, and this month there's 170. So a little bit of a jump up there, and 0.4 more watch time hours from 6.9 to 7.3. And then 1 new subscriber that came from this video, but mostly it's the same. Just a little bit of growth, so we won't spend too long here, but I will take a look at the view growth. It's been a very slow increase over time, so it still gets some, but not an incredible amount. All right, moving on to the next video, we're going to take a look at YouTube Chronicles 1, or as this is written, 7 days as a YouTuber. Take a look at the analytics again here. Adding in average view duration as well as the average percent viewed, switching it to the views. So once again, for this one, I'll have the stats down below here. So this one has the same number of views as it did last month, though if you notice, there was an increase right here. So it's saying that all of this time was 26. Sometimes I've noticed that they retract views or watch time hours or just really any of these stats. They're never really final until sometime later. So I don't really understand that fluctuation, but the stats here are basically the same number of views, but with 0.1 watch time hours increased. All right, so moving on to the third video. Actually, I'll close that. YouTube Chronicles Week 2. So we'll look at the retention here first. All of these videos, we'll check out the retention first. The other two I didn't because we already covered that mostly last month. So here we have the main drop off at about 36 seconds. We're down to 35%. And then there's another kind of drop off around 1 minute and 35 seconds. I think this is pretty close to what we saw last month as well for this particular video, mostly because it was already well established at that point. Some of the other videos, as we get further into October, they are going to be a little bit new in terms of information based compared to last month. So once again, still have retention issues. This really only holds 20% mostly until the end, and then it's down to 15%. So obviously big drop off in the first 30 some seconds. That needs to be fixed, or otherwise the overall view, viewage is not going to be very high. Okay, so moving on to the actual analytics over here, we'll add average view duration, average percent viewed, switch it back to views. So last month, when we reviewed this, it was about here, I believe. So 13 views were how many we had November 3rd. So it's been slowly kind of creeping up views every, so many days. There's a little bump up, a little bump up. So it's also slowly growing. And if we take a look at traffic sources, if you notice that time frame also corresponds to more channel page views. I'm not really sure why that is exactly. Most of the initial views before were coming from browse and suggested video. And there was, one here for browse, but most of them since last month have been channel views. So that's someone going to the channel and then viewing it. Maybe they were watching another one of my videos and then they went to the channel and then watched this video. Not really sure, but that's where most of the traffic is coming from for this video. I don't really expect this one to do much more beyond what it has already. There might be a few more tick ups like this, but I think it's pretty well flatlined and probably isn't going to receive very many more views or watch time hours. Okay, so moving on to the next video, we have 100x views guaranteed with 4 key items. This was the first information video that I had, so it was a bit different than my usual update videos. So here we have a drop off of down to 24% after, once again, the first minute and 20-ish seconds. And then there's kind of another drop off and then another drop off. The average here is probably about, 19 maybe percent or something. Oh, I guess it says it right here, 18%. And, and then at the end, it only gets down, it gets all the way down to 10%. So this one wasn't a super viewed video all the way through, but it was my first exploration into doing something other than just update videos. So moving over here to the stats, we have average view duration. We'll add that. Percentage viewed. Switch it back to views. Now last month it was right around, let's see here. So we were at 19 views and we have gotten a couple of views, but basically this video has not gotten any additional traction. So it's pretty much dead as well. Most of what you see will happen in the first, 4 to 5 days. Sometimes there's an additional boost. Maybe I change something about, the title or thumbnail or whatever or keywords during this time period. These other ones over here, probably channel views. In fact, if I go to traffic source, actually, no, they were from, oh no, that is channel views. It's green this time instead of blue. So yeah, those were just channel views, whereas the bulk of the initial were from browse. So YouTube isn't really promoting this video anymore to any significant amount. So the only views I really get are from the channel views. So that video is pretty well dead, and I don't think there's much else to mention for it. So we'll move on to the next video. And actually something I realized that I didn't cover too well with the previous videos that I want to quickly look at. I'm going to go ahead and open up these first 4 that we went through and take a look at the stats for all of these. So I'll just open up all of these. So the first thing I want to really mention here is that the views for this first video, 170, is a lot higher than most of my other videos. And so if you compare it to the other 3 videos, 27, 20, and 21, they've all been pretty low in comparison to the first video. And that isn't just because the first video was out before them. I mean, these have been out for almost as long as the first video has, and they just really haven't gotten that many views. Not to mention that, as you can see, the first 4 days on every video is usually, well, this has a little bit of an exception. I think it might have had a change in keywords or something, but most of the videos after the first 4 days, they have pretty much the bulk of what they're going to get. Now, I'm not saying that's true to for every YouTube channel or every video, but at least for my videos, that's how it's been. So this one is kind of an outlier. Most of them, well, we'll see this as it progresses, but I think most of my videos are between 30 and 40 views per video. So this one is quite higher. The other thing I want to note is the number of subscribers that this one got is 26, which is also very much higher than any other video has gotten. And that's probably because it was kind of initial support, whereas like the highest maybe other video, I'm not sure exactly. It's not these 3, but there's some other videos that may have gotten 3 subscribers or so. So that's actually on the high side. They usually get 0, sometimes get 1. And then lastly, the impressions being 2,300. Early on, that was very much higher than all the rest of them. So these 3 that so far that we've looked at have not even broken 1,000. Now, as we go through some more of these videos, I'll make more mentions about impressions in particular. So that's why I want to make special note of that one. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the 4th video now, or 5th video, I think. So the 5th video here is 3 weeks on YouTube was a wild ride, which is YouTube Chronicles week 3. Go ahead and open that up, and we'll take a look at the retention. Once again, we have a significant drop off. About 1 minute and 20 seconds in is most of the drop. We're down to 30-ish%, and then it's kind of just a trickle downward until the end to another 10%. So another kind of bad initial video that loses everything and then trickles down from there. So going into the stats here, we'll add in the average view duration again, average percent viewed, and we will switch it over to views. As usual, most of the views kind of happened within the first few days, and then it was kind of more or less flat after that. This one is the second highest, or sorry, the third highest views for a video that I have. So this is 62. The highest was, I think, 170. I just showed you that that was my first video. And it has 1,800 impressions, which is, I think, the start of the first of the video starting to get a lot more impressions per video. But at the same time, it starts to be the decline for some of the videos, I think, of the click-through rate. So now it's down to 2.9%, and some of these videos I'll come up against will be even further down. So we're getting an average percent viewed of 20.7%. The average for my channel is about 17 or 18%, so that's actually above my average. Obviously still terrible percent, but it is above my average, so that's good. But the biggest win for this one is the views being 62 views, and then of course the 3 subscribers. Well, that's probably the biggest win, but in terms of the regular stats, not subscribers, 62 views is a big win for it. And the channel has 25-ish watch time hours. This is also a fair chunk of that. That's about 10%. So that's also really good. Like most of the other videos, I don't really anticipate this one getting any additional traction. So this is probably about the end of what it'll be for the rest of its life. Not sure why I said that so morbidly, but moving on to the next video. That is YouTube. No, sorry, this is not YouTube Chronicles. This is YouTube for Beginners, Niche, Motivation, and Success. So this is the second informational video that I made. So looking again at retention first. Now this one has the initial drop to about 30% at about a minute in, and then it kind of holds for a little bit, and then it slowly declines down to 20% or 18%, somewhere in that range, after about 4 minutes. This is actually pretty good in comparison to what I am usually getting, and holds that fairly well, but then, obviously towards the end, it starts to drift off. Now, this is a longer video, so this is 17 minutes. So having 17% average watch time is going to account for a fair amount of watch time. But nonetheless, this is still obviously something I got to work on, is getting the watch time hours, or sorry, getting the view duration for each video, the average percent viewed, to be a bit higher. So moving on to the stats here, I did forget to mention something. Week 3 was the first time I started putting myself in the thumbnail with some kind of text. I started doing that from there on for most of them. There are a couple of exceptions, I'll get to them, but this is the first time I did that. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the impressions, but there was that. So moving on to the stats over here for this video. Average view duration, average percent viewed, and we'll take a look at views. As usual, first 4 days, first 5 days, that's pretty much all the views, and then this one definitely flatlined after that. It really didn't get any more views, but it did get a fair amount still. It got 31 views, 17%. It's on the average end with 1.5 watch time hours. So this is also another more than 1,000 impressions, and I think pretty much every video from here on is going to be greater than 1,000. Now last month when we were looking at this, actually it was right here, so it was 31 views right here, and actually I guess everything else would be the same because there were no views. There might be a difference in impressions, I suppose. We can take a look at impressions. So November 3rd here, so 967 impressions. It's went up about 100 since then, which is okay, but of course it didn't capture any clicks, so it didn't end up meaning very much. But on to the next video. All right, so moving on, we have YouTube Chronicles week 4, or can you really grow on YouTube in just 4 weeks? Take a look at that one. Take a look at the retention. Now this one was only a week in the last time, but I think most of the stats were already kind of set at that point. But we'll take a look. So there's kind of a few different drop-offs here. There's this initial one around 30 seconds, dropping off to 55, 58%. Then another one down at a minute, 20 seconds again, 32%. And then from there, it's kind of a glide down. But so again, it kind of gets down to 3 and 6%. So this is one of the worst ones, because it has 13.6% average view duration. So this is definitely on the lower side. However, it did get 2 subscribers. We'll take a look at the stats in detail here. So add view duration, add percent viewed, and take a look at views here. So once again, first 4 days, that's pretty much all the views. The last time we looked at it, it was right about here. So 29 views. And since then, there's been 1 additional view. So this one, 1,600 impressions. So once again, this is on the starting to get higher and higher in terms of impressions. And now we're down at 1.4% click-through rate with an average view duration average percent viewed of 13.6%. And it's in that lower region for the average viewed number of views. So that's 30 with watch time hours of 0.9. If we take a look at traffic source, we see that as most of the videos are at the beginning, the biggest bulk of the views in those first 4 or 5 days come from browse features, sometimes through search and that sort of thing, or suggested, but mostly through browse. And then after that, it kind of just switches over to, actually, I think this one is from a suggested video, but usually after that, it just comes from channel page views or something like that. There might be some other things that we could look at here, but I'm not exactly sure, so I'll have to give that some more thought. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next video. All right, so the next video is Math by Fire. So this is math homework, got you down, I've got the answer. So this is the first content video for the channel. And this one was an open invitation to submit homework to me and I'll do it for you kind of thing. And then I'd show a video of me doing all of the problems and explaining everything. And the plan is to have other math videos link to this video so that to kind of get this traction. But this one was not meant to be sent out to the subscribers. So this one was the first video to not be sent as a notification to the subscriber base. So it has a few drop-offs in retention. We are the first one here after just like a few seconds in, so that's kind of interesting. And then we have another one that kind of drops down to 27% by the time you hit 23 seconds. And that's probably because most of the viewers were coming from subscribers and, you know, they weren't really worried about that or they weren't looking for that. That's my guess. I really don't know for sure who was watching it. But then there's another drop-off once we get down to about 18%. And it's kind of just flat for the most part. So now this is the first video that has an outro that is different than my usual videos. So my usual videos, I do kind of a fire thing at the end, and that's the end of it. Well, in this particular video, I don't do that. I have kind of an outro animation and music and that sort of thing. And so I just find it a little interesting that everyone basically dips out before the video ends because it's that kind of ending. I don't know if that's a sign that I should change it or that's just how it is. I don't know what to do with that. So taking a look at the stats here in more detail, average view duration, average percent viewed, and we'll take a look at views. Now, the last time I looked at this, it was 9 views. So it's been pretty much flat the entire time, except for just recently when it had 2 additional views. I think one of those might have been me, but still, nonetheless, there were some additional views that have ticked up a little bit. So the main thing to note on this one, the impressions were 1,900, where the click-through rate was 0.5%. So that ended up resulting in pretty terrible views. So this is starting to get even higher in impressions and even lower in click-through rate. And of course, watch time hours, because it's not a long video and it's not a long percentage or a high percentage, it ends up only being 0.2 watch time hours. So if we take a look at traffic source, most of the traffic source from this one actually comes from suggested videos. I still don't 100% know what that all includes, but I would imagine it's anything at the end of a video when you finish watching one video and then some videos are suggested by YouTube. I think those count. And then maybe on the side as well, possibly something else counts it, but I'm sure those 2 at least count for it. So those are the main one. And then I had a few at the beginning for browse feature, which as far as I know is just your homepage, your For You page. And then recently there was another uptick for browse and channel. Now the channel one is probably just me. The browse one, I'm not sure. You know, that sounds like it's new organic kind of traction there. And if we switch to impressions, it's been pretty well flat with a very, very, very slow increase over time. Like I said before, I don't intend for this video to have like a lot of traction right off the bat. I'm expecting to get additional traction by posting other math videos, which I should be getting to in the next few weeks, and having those videos link to this video. So those videos will cover Algebra 1, Algebra 2, trigonometry, calculus, all of these different things. And I will show kind of math lessons for each one. And then at the end of the video, I'll link to this video saying, and I'll do your homework. And then that will yield additional videos. All right, so moving on. Next video is, this is the last video that was technically covered in the previous monetization video. It was released just before it. It was technically a November video, but I included it. We didn't have very much for stats back then, but we do now. So taking a look at retention, there's kind of an initial drop off 40 seconds in. This is a common thing, 40 seconds and 1 minute and 20 seconds I've noticed, kind of the main two drop offs for my videos. So 40 seconds in, we're down to about 40%. And then there's another drop off at a minute and 20, well, a little bit before, but minute and 20 seconds in, 29%. And then it kind of drops off from there. So once again, recurring theme, retention needs to be increased substantially. Now that's easier said than done, but it is definitely something I'm going to need to work on. Jumping over into the stats, we have average view duration, we'll add that, and then we'll add average percent viewed. Switching it to the views. Now actually switching to impressions, when I was looking at it last time, I had noticed that there was only 199, which was a little bit low at the time for the number of impressions. And then it suddenly skyrocketed up right after the video, basically, right after the last monetization video. But overall, the impressions ended up getting up to over 2,000. So this is where we start to reach even higher into impressions. Once again, only at 2.1% click-through rate, but this one ended up getting 57 views. So this was actually the 4th highest viewed video on my channel, and it also got 1 subscriber here. Switching it over to views, most of those were at the beginning, though there was a little bit of an uptick here. I don't believe I changed anything from these two from this point. So this, I guess we can take a look at traffic source, see where it came from. There was a little bit from browse and other YouTube features, whatever that means, and also suggested videos, I guess, because it's kind of through this time frame here. So suggested videos, browse, and other YouTube features. As with most of the other videos, I don't expect this to get anything additional. So 30 days in, more or less right now. Technically, it needs a little bit more time, but this is basically 30 days in, and we're pretty well capped off. 57 views. It actually capped off at about 11 days in. And I believe this was the first video that I did this style of thumbnail. Actually, I'll check. Oh, this isn't the right thing to check. This would be the right thing to check. Yeah, this was the first one I did this style of thumbnail, which does seem to do well for whatever reason. So that's why I've been kind of sticking with this one throughout the other ones. So we'll go ahead and jump into the next video, which is this one. The last month's monthly monetization video. All right, so taking a look at the analytics here. In the retention section, we got a very steep drop off down to about 20-ish, 24% at a minute, 20-ish seconds as usual. And then it's kind of bumpy from there on. And the bumpiness is certainly because people are jumping around from chapter to chapter to kind of like see different videos and information about them. But the average here ends up being 12%, which is pretty low. However, since it's a longer video, the average view duration ends up being 4.21, or rather 4 minutes and 21 seconds, which is actually the 3rd highest, I believe, for the channel. So that's actually pretty good. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. We'll add in average view duration and average percent viewed. Now this one I find a bit interesting because despite it being below average on average percent viewed, as well as the total number of views, and even impressions. It's on the lower side. See, as this one is only 1,200-ish, whereas even the Math by Fire one was up to over 2,000. However, because this one is a longer video and it ends up getting 4 minutes and 21 seconds average view time, which is actually the second highest for the average view duration, and that ends up putting the watch time hours at position 4. So this is the 4th highest watch time hours, the 2nd highest average view duration, and for average views, it's like, I don't know, somewhere in the middle, but a little bit low. So it's a little bit lower than average, and then definitely on the low side for average view percent, or average percent viewed. So it's kind of all over the place in terms of where it sits compared to everything else with all of its stats. And then moving over to the traffic source, a lot of this stuff is coming from the browse feature. So that's getting a lot of traction. And then as it's moved on past that, it starts to get into channel. So there's a lot more channel hits after that. So that's probably all there is to mention for this one, but I will probably keep an eye on this one just to see how it evolves over time, to see if there's anything additional next month to note. But I don't necessarily expect it to do much more after this. It's probably going to pretty well flatline. All right, so the next video is the top 15 YouTube settings to boost your channel's success. This video was the 3rd information video that I put out. Now, just to clarify, these information videos are part of a 50-hour research series. So where I did a bunch of research and then I'm starting to put out these videos, and I'm still have a few more to put out, and then I'm going to do a compilation of them. So let's go ahead and take a look at the stats here for this one. I also kind of did a little bit different with the thumbnail here. Not a ton, but just to change it up a little bit just to see how it would work. The retention on this one was actually significantly different than all the previous ones, as you can see from here. Now this one isn't quite a month old, but it's basically, so we can consider this kind of pretty well capped off. The initial drop maybe in the first 8 seconds, but then it kind of pops back up, and then it kind of holds its ground there for a while, for 2 minutes, and then it starts to dip. Every 10, 15 seconds, it's diving another 5 to 10%. And by the time we get into 6 minutes or so, we're pretty well dead. So it was good for the beginning area, at least. The overall ends up being 21.6%, which for my channel is actually high on the percentage. But let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. Now, one thing to note right away is that now that I think this is the 11th video, it seems like it takes 10 videos to get this to show up, but once you get to like your 11th video and on, you start to get this graph where you can kind of see this bar. And so this just shows you the average range for your past X number of videos. I'm not exactly sure how it calculates it, if it's across the whole. I'm assuming it's probably just your most recent X number of videos that it uses, but I know it seems to be like it takes 10 videos for this to show up. So this just shows where do your videos typically fall within this time frame. So in the beginning, they usually are pretty low, and then it kind of expands outward. At this point, it's usually between 10 and 40. And by the time it's done, it's 20 to 40. So this one falls pretty well into that range, and even at the end falls a little bit short of it. Now, another thing you can notice right away is that the impressions are gaining even higher. We're up to 2,800 now. This one's 0.4%, so way lower on the click-through rate. However, note that this one is something that's going to reach out to a broader audience than or a different audience than the previous videos, because it's starting to talk about settings where people might be searching for that, or looking for that kind of information. So you're kind of capturing a little bit of a different audience. And so I think it may just be harder to capture some of those. But let's go ahead and add in the other 2 metrics. So average view duration and average percent viewed. Now, not all of them have these metrics, but the average view duration, views, and watch time hours all have that, the range. So this 2 minutes and 13 seconds to 2 minutes and 35 seconds. If I switch it to look at view duration, well, I guess this one actually goes over time. It changes over time, so you can't really go off of that one. But this is the average for the entirety of the video versus this one, which is kind of the average at any given day throughout its lifetime. I don't know really how to to view that maybe with more data that could be a little bit more refined and easier to understand. Now this one shot off all of its impressions right away, and then it kind of capped off, and that was pretty much it. But the views kind of kept poking up a bit at a time, but it's been pretty flat ever since November 20th. But overall, I think this was kind of an average video. We can take a look at traffic source as well. Most of it at the beginning came from suggested videos. Then it kind of took over being browse features. And then from there, it was pretty much nothing else, but there was some YouTube search and some channel page as well. All right, so moving on from there, we have how I'm growing my YouTube channel, week 6 progress report. This is YouTube Chronicles week 6. And the retention for this one is also pretty interesting. It's so it has a more gradual decline all the way from the beginning to the end. So there's not really a significant drop off. There's kind of one here at the very beginning, 13 seconds in, but from there, it's just kind of a glide all the way down. So this one overall was a better video for percentage viewed, and that also shows here with 27.6%. So this is maybe my highest, I'm not sure, with an asterisk to some other videos, which we'll get to. But generally speaking, it was a pretty good video for view duration, or for view percentage, or average percentage viewed, as well as the total number of views up here. So let's take a look at the stats here. So this one has been pretty rock solid and is trending way higher than the average, as you can see here. This one is actually sitting at the second highest number of views for all of my videos, and has also 5 subscribers, which is the second highest for subscribers gained from any video. So all around, this is just a really rock solid video for the channel, except for, maybe impression or click-through rate, but that's kind of low. For pretty well all of my videos. I don't really know what to say about the click-through rate at this point. Earlier on, I had, certain thoughts about it, but now it's kind of evolved to think that I don't know how much control I really have over it. I've improved thumbnails, well, asterisk on that, but I think generally speaking, I've improved thumbnails, improved titles, that sort of thing. I've done different things. I think, though, the fact that I'm getting more impressions, but those impressions aren't leading to clicks, is the bigger reason, rather than that the same impressions are getting less clicks, if that makes sense. But this video, generally speaking, was really good. Traffic source says that most of it came from browse, which makes sense for this particular video. And I think that's pretty well all that there is to say for that one. All right, so the next one up is week 7, YouTube Chronicles. And now we're definitely starting to get into the territory where there's less information about these because they've been out for less time. But taking a look at the retention, there was initial drop off very quickly, and then pretty much 20 seconds in, we're already down to 46%. However, it does stay fairly well for the rest of the video, in terms of the angle of regression. And the overall ends up being 29.9%. This is a shorter video. It's only 5.5 minutes. And so that amounts to average view duration of 1.5 minutes. So that's still not that great, but whatever, I guess. Looking at stats, go ahead and add these ones in. Now here, the most obvious thing that is notable is the 4,600 impressions. Now this is where it really started to kind of go crazy in terms of impressions, but it didn't really amount to a lot of views. So of course that means low click-through rate. Once again, I don't know what to say on that, but the average percent viewed was 30%. So 23 views, probably most of those were already subscribed to the channel, and then 30% of the view time. So, and then it ends up only accounting for 0.6 watch time hours. So not a whole lot there, no new subscribers or anything like that. So there's not a lot to note here, except for the impressions are very high. And most of that is coming from suggested videos this time. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly if that would fall into the same category, but I imagine those are mostly probably subscribers. This one has kind of an interesting amount coming from all different kinds of sources here. So we have YouTube search, I guess I'll go over here. YouTube search, suggested videos, notifications for even one of these, channel page, and then browse feature. So all of these things are contributing in a fair amount compared to other ones that we previously looked at. Now on to this wacky one, the SpeedRun YouTube tips, tricks, and recommendations video. So that one was another one of the information videos for the 50-hour research. And it was done in a speed run. So I zoomed through that entire thing, talking as fast as I could, blasting through, no extra information, just kind of like as very minimalistic as I can, as I could be. There was maybe a few parts where I went into more detail, but most of them were very quick and fast, jumping from scene to scene to scene. And well, it didn't do that great. The retention drop off was pretty steep towards the beginning. We were only about, at a minute and 20 seconds, we're about 27% in, so about 30% in, and it just kind of keeps gliding down from there. So very quick fall off and then a glide for the rest of it. It overall didn't do that great. It was only 14.3% viewed, and it did get 42 views, but when you put that in context of the average percent viewed, that didn't amount to a lot. Let me go ahead and add these real quick. So it did net 1 subscriber, so that's probably the most positive thing. An interesting thing here would be the impressions hitting over 5,000, which only had 0.6%. So of course it only got 42 views. But just generally speaking, this one was kind of abnormally high in impressions once again, like the previous video was. So it kind of has this initial jump of impressions that skyrockets to almost 4,000. And then there's another little jump, another little jump, another little jump, but it's pretty well flat from there on. But 5,000 impressions compared to even my first video, which wasn't even 3,000. So this is, starting to get crazy amount of impressions for seemingly no real reason. I mean, this one, I guess, could have been because some of the keywords used for this particular video, since it's not one of the YouTube Chronicles. However, that doesn't really explain the week prior, week 7 YouTube Chronicles, where it was 4,000 and there weren't those keywords. And it was just kind of the same keywords used as any other video for the weekly Chronicles. So this one was a 12-minute video. It only had 1 minute and 43-second average view duration. So that's only 14%. Traffic source, most of it, once again, coming from suggested. Oh, I'm looking at impressions. Let me switch that to views. Let's see. Suggested videos, yeah, it would be the initial jump. And then there's some gradual jump for browse feature after that. And then it kind of has capped off with pretty well no other views coming. I don't think I'll be doing another one of those videos that has the speed run tactic. I was just trying it out to see how it would do, and generally speaking, it didn't do very well. I mean, it was on the higher end for views, but it didn't amount to very many watch time hours compared to the number of views because it only got less than 2 minutes of average view duration, so it wasn't necessarily really worth it. All right, next one up is week 8 of YouTube Chronicles. So this one, once again, we're starting to run into, this one was published the 26th, so we definitely don't have 30 days here, but we'll take a look at these retentions and other stats just to get a little bit of an idea, and then we'll check it again next month to see how they've transpired. So this initial drop off right away within the first 8 seconds, down to 58 seconds, then there's surprisingly a little bump up, but then there's another drop off down to 40% about 40 seconds in. And so this one actually kind of glides more, which is a bit interesting. And overall, the percentage is okay, but this is only slightly better for the channel for average percentage viewed. So taking a look at the stats here, average view duration, average percentage viewed, and we'll take a look at views here. So it's right there in the middle of where the views are expected to be for my videos. So that's 10 to 50 apparently is the typical performance range. This one's only not even quite 8 days in, so it still has potentially time to jump up, but as we've seen with previous ones, most of it comes from the first 4 days, and then after that it's pretty well capped out. However, once again, we do have 3,700 impressions for this already. But with the low amount of views, of course, that, or maybe the other way around, but 0.3% click-through rate, so that ends up yielding very little views. This is actually, I think, my worst click-through rate that I have on the channel. For whatever reason, maybe it's the thumbnail, I guess, because I'm using maybe bad colors. I was trying out new things. I'm always trying out different color styles, maybe some different fonts, sometimes different styling for the font, like echo and shadow and all these different things. But that's my best guess for this one, being 0.3% compared to the other videos that have had higher. I'm not exactly sure what to make of it. I need more data to really be able to make any trend analysis here. But with an average view duration of 1 minute, this one did not amount to a whole lot of watch time hours. Traffic source was mostly coming from suggested videos. However, there was a fair amount from a few other sources, browse feature and channel page apparently. Another thing to note here is like the average view duration for each category. So here we have 2 minutes and 15 seconds for the average that came from browse and from channel, but when it's a suggested video, they cut out pretty early. Same for search down here. Once I start getting more data on some of these videos, not these in particular, but just videos in general, starting to get more views, like hundreds of views, thousands of views, where I'm getting, you know, a lot of watch time hours and views per video, it'll be easier to figure out trends a lot more than with this, where you can't really tell a trend from the data because there's too much noise at this low level. You gotta kind of have a larger scale of data, and then from that you can pull out, you know, averages and trends and that sort of thing. Now on to one of the most interesting videos, not in terms of content, but in terms of results. And that is the 1 month, 7 videos, My YouTube Beginnings compilation. This is just the compilation video of pretty much every video, aside from the Math by Fire, because that's a content video. But it's a compilation of all the other videos combined. And for this video, I didn't send it out to subscribers. I didn't send it out. So it's just based off of pure new people finding it, or subscribers, you know, going to the page themselves and finding it. So I wasn't expecting like great results or anything. But what I found interesting is the number of impressions that I was getting being so low, only 251. And actually earlier, it was for the first almost past 2 days, it basically was, actually, let me check the impressions. Yeah, so like the first 2 days, 8 hours, there was almost no impressions at all. And then it started growing pretty well, and then it slowed down a bit. But it's very drastically different in terms of impressions, in terms of total impressions, and in terms of the rate of growth of impressions compared to every other video, including the first video, second video. You know, like even those early videos, the first video had a higher amount, but the second 2 videos after that, they were, you know, these two, the YouTube Chronicle ones. If we take a look at those again, just for reference, the impressions for those, 578 and 444. So those are early on videos. They had substantially more than this one has, even right now. And yes, it's only 4 or 5 days in, but as I've mentioned many times already, 4 days to 5 days in, it's already pretty well capped out. And it's kind of a slow grind from there. So this being only 251 impressions is very abnormal compared to all the other videos. Now, this one, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this compilation thing. So I'm going to be putting out another compilation video soon, supposed to be this week. We'll see how that pans out. And I'm going to also not send it out to subscribers again. And I want to see how it compares to this one, because this one is just drastically lower than what I would expect it to be. Not that it should be doing really well. It's just that it's really low in comparison to what I would anticipate it to be, for given all the facts, I guess. So despite this thing only having 4 views, it actually ends up getting 0.8 watch time hours. I'm sure that is one of the viewers, one of the subscribers, and just watching this. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's a new subscriber or something, but 0.8 is actually quite high. We'll see if that stays, because I know some of these, like I've mentioned, some of these stats will shift downward after some amount of time. But 0.8 is kind of high given that there's only 4 views. So we'll see how this one plays out. This one is very recent, so there's still a lot of time for it to mature. Traffic source is coming from, for impressions that is, it's coming from browse feature. The actual views are coming from, I guess, browse feature. Yeah. So both are the same. So average for the browse is actually 16 minutes. That's kind of a lot, you know, that's very high. I know this is still early on, but that's a very, very high average. And actually, I just realized I forgot to add the average view percent or view duration and average percentage viewed. Right, so this one says 11%, 12 minutes. Now this one's a compilation, so it's very, very long. But and so the average percent viewed is terrible. It's 11% compared to other videos. But as a one-off, looking at the average view duration, 12 minutes is very, very high compared to most of my videos. I mean, consider the fact that a lot of the videos aren't even 12 minutes long, and this is more time than that. So just taking it from that point of view, that's actually doing really well. So, you know, we'll see how this one progresses. I don't imagine it to explode or anything, but we'll see. This whole kind of compilation thing was a trial thing anyway. I wanted to see how well does, you know, putting it all together in one giant video, how well does that do? I know that if you can have someone watch through your video, a long video, right? Say you have a 3-hour video and they watch through the entire thing, that means a lot to YouTube, right? Just even with just one view, that means a significant amount. And so these kind of videos can be powerful, especially for people that might put it on in the background or something like that, and they're just kind of listening to it or doing other things. It gets you a lot of watch time hours from those kind of idle-ish viewers compared to maybe a 5-minute video or a 10-minute video where they, well, first of all, if they jump out right away, then you lose the whole 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But even if they watch the entirety of that, you know, it's only 10 minutes or 5 minutes of watch time hours. So you end up having to get a lot of views. I don't really know how to describe what I'm trying to say here, but if you can capture the idle viewers, you'll kind of, generally speaking, I think, do well overall. And so that's what I'm trying to experiment with here with the compilations, is trying to capture idle viewers. You know, even if like someone is watching YouTube and they fall asleep, right? And you have this really long, drawn out video, they're sleeping through the whole thing, but that still counts as watch time for you, and which can be very powerful. And also consider the fact that if you start to get crazy amounts of watch time hours, it will self-perpetuate, because by getting that extra watch time, that encourages YouTube to push it out more. And then more people are watching it, giving you increased odds of having more people idly watching and watching it for these long durations of time. And you're just kind of accumulating, stacking on top of it itself. Also, just in general, compilation videos are have been shown to do very well. So if you have like a series or something that you're putting out videos for, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and you just kind of go, and the compilation, or, you know, the whatever term you might use, but here's the everything video for the entire series, or for season 1, or, you know, all of those kind of things. People like to have one batch. It tends to work out better, I think, than a playlist would, even though it ultimately is the same thing. I think that a single video actually does probably better than a playlist of the same videos. But enough of all that. We'll see how this one progresses, and we'll also see how the next compilation video does, which will be hopefully this week. But we'll see. I've been struggling to keep up, especially with sickness. All right, and so the last video is YouTube Chronicles Week 9, which is kind of another anomaly video. It's still early on, but if you, first of all, the retention The average percentage viewed is 51.9%, which is obviously astronomically high in comparison to my usual, which is 17.6 or something. So this is way higher. And generally speaking, I think it's probably a good average percent viewed. I'm not really sure what's considered good, but the first drop off, well, actually, this is very cleanly cut here. So the very first drop off is 5 seconds in, it's down to 90%. Second drop off, 20 seconds in, it's down to, or 26 seconds, it's down to 60%. And then there's another bit over here for 40, 50 and 40%. And then it stays 40 for the rest of the duration. So that's pretty crazy to me, just seeing this graph at all, especially with 21 views. Not that 21 views is a lot, but when you compare it to other ones that have similar number of views, this thing just kind of, well, first of all, it drops off immediately. But second of all, it's very bumpy, right? And you can kind of see where people drop off, drop off, drop off. But this one doesn't really have that. So this one is already strange just from that point of view. The average view duration is 4 minutes and 34 seconds, which is pretty high, especially for 21 views. That means that it's going to have a fair amount of watch time, comparatively, I mean. The click-through rate is 4.6%, so another really high one. However, it's certainly because there's only 306 impressions, and those impressions must be going to viewers that are, more interested in the channel, which presumably are subscribers, current subscribers. I'm not really sure. This is speculation here. I don't have any data that necessarily tells me that. Maybe in the traffic source, but it's actually, I think I can, now that I think about it. Think subscription status, maybe? What? I'll be honest, I don't know what I'm looking at here. This one doesn't seem to be what we're looking for. I'm not really sure what this is. Maybe the subscription source? No. That would just be about, let me just go back to here and see if there's anything for, oh yeah, there's, well, no, that's not what I want. I don't know really how to tell information about who is subscribed and who's not. I'll have to look at that. Oh, new and returning viewers. Let's look at that. So, yeah, I don't think it tells me because it says limit data available. Switch it to since uploaded. Sure. Okay. Well, I don't know why that would make a difference because since uploaded and since published should mean about the same thing. But anyway, we have returning viewers. Yeah, so all of these views came from returning viewers and not new viewers. So that's kind of what I expected, but it's hard to know for sure. Let me switch this back to since published. So we'll go ahead and add in average view duration, average percent viewed, switch it to views. So we're still very much early on here, and we're on the rise for this particular video. But it's an interesting video because of the abnormally high average view or percentage viewed. This actually says 31.6%. I don't know the difference between, I think this tab is updated less often. So this 51.9, 21 views versus 21 views, 31.6. I'm going to guess the 21 is coming from the same source as this one. However, I'm going to guess that this is probably delayed a bit compared to what this one is. So this is probably more accurate. But either way, even 31.6% is very, very high. And so this one will definitely be one to keep an eye on to see how it progresses. My guess is that it's going to shoot up in impressions. It's going to drop dramatically in click-through rate. The number of views is going to go up probably to 40, 50, maybe even 60 views. And the watch time hours will probably go to 2. And then the average percent viewed will drop down to 17, 18, 19%, like most of the other videos. That's just my guess. We'll see if that comes true in the next video. But I think that's about all we need to cover for the videos. Now we'll switch over to channel stats. All right, so taking a look at the channel stats. So here we're looking at the entire list of videos here. And so the average view duration for all of the videos is 2 minutes and 24 seconds. And the total number of views were at 640. Watch time hours were up to 25. with 48 subscribers and over 32,000 impressions. So that's it's doing overall pretty well, I think, at least in, you know, from my perspective. It could be doing a lot better, of course, but that's kind of the point of this channel, is to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and to kind of show you my strategies and my progression over time, and so you can kind of maybe learn from my mistakes and do better than me, which probably won't be too hard to do. Mostly, I think it's just about consistency, learning, improving over time, and finding the specific thing that's going to trigger your growth, and kind of riding that growth until you find the next trigger, and so on and so forth. So 640 views. Now here we can see I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So the top 5 videos will show, and all the other ones will gray out. So you can't really see them on this chart. So you can see that in terms of views, the very first video was really good, and there was a few pop-offs, and it's kind of been almost kind of a glide down. You can tell that it's dropping off. However, at the same time, if you take a look at impressions, it tells a little bit of a different story. So we have this initial one, which had a lot of impressions, but then nothing really in between comparatively, and then it changed and it started turning around. So now it's been getting higher and higher, dipped down a little bit here, but generally speaking, it's growing over time here, which is just kind of interesting to see that as well. So we'll see how that progresses. Now I also have this other tab open here, which shows the aggregation of every video. So now we'll take a look at views again. So of course this beginning one was the highest amount of views, but now compared, when you add up all of the views that are happening on an individual day, it's not as extreme to just the side. You have a lot of bumps throughout here, so it's more steady. There is maybe a decline, it seems, but generally speaking, it's still kind of steady. We'll also take a look at the impressions, and that one you'll definitely see that go way up. So it kind of starts off good, and then it flattens, and little bump, and then it starts going higher, and then now it's really popping off. These are the ones I kept mentioning, that they were just abnormally high compared to what you would expect them to be compared to all the other videos. It doesn't really make a lot of sense why those ones in particular started popping off. Now going back over here, so we're taking a look at impressions here. There's also click-through rate. You'll notice that, so the average click-through rate for my videos is 1.3%. You have 8.6% for this one here, which is, this is the new one. Yeah, this is the new one. This one will surely drop off a lot. 4.6 is really the highest one. And then there's 3, and it kind of goes down from there. But if you'll notice that the newer ones are the ones that are actually getting less click-through than the older ones. However, the newer ones are the ones getting more impressions. So that's why, you know, I kind of correlate those two. In terms of subscribers, most of that came from the first video or channel page subscriptions or that sort of thing. There's only a few that actually have gained subscribers via that specific video. Hope to kind of improve on that over time, but you know, we'll see. So we can take a look at some other things like traffic source. So here we have most of it coming from browse feature, which is kind of what I would expect. Kind of a high amount for channel page, higher than I would expect it to be. And then suggested videos, that seems about right. And I don't know what some of these other notifications I understand, but I don't know what direct or unknown. Maybe that's like a link given in like Discord or something. I'm not sure. See if there's anything interesting on any of these other tabs. Not that one. Not that one. Not enough demographic. Not enough demographic. I don't know what that is. This is a little bit interesting. So the subscribed watch time hours are 8.4, not subscribed to 17.3. I mean, there is significantly more views coming from that, so that makes some sense, but I just find it a little bit interesting. I would think the proportions would be a little bit more in favor of subscribed having higher, but not sure. Okay, so let's see what else is there. Subscription sources, not much there. Content type, I only have one type. Playlists, I don't really know how to read this one. Like for instance, it says channel growth pre-monetization. I know what that one is, but it says 25.5 watch time hours, which is certainly not true. Like if that is supposed to mean that 25.5 watch time hours came from people watching that playlist, that's absolutely false. Maybe the videos within that playlist, but not via that playlist, maybe that, but I don't know. It seems a little weird. Not very useful there. Device type, 14% using a computer, 10% using mobile. Sorry, I'm reading that wrong. That's 14 watch time hours and 10 watch time hours, 55% and 42% for those. I think I looked at this last month and it was I think it was higher in mobile, but I don't recall for sure. Yeah, so not sure what all we can look at here. If you have some ideas of what you'd like me to take a look at, let me know and we'll put that into the next monetization video. I'm trying to figure this out as I go, so any suggestions would be helpful. So please, please, please comment. All right, we'll move on from there. Okay, so moving on to the Amazon associate affiliate links, we have, so right now we're looking at October to December. So basically the entire time I've been doing the affiliate link, plus actually extra. But I have 179 clicks and then 2 ordered through product links, whatever that means, and 17 all other items ordered. Now, I don't know exactly what this breakdown means, but the ordered revenue, I think that would be what I would potentially receive. I'm not 100% sure, but $264.27. Now, before anyone gets excited on that, I don't think I'll be earning any of that because I believe it's all going to fall into a category of family and friends, right? And so I did do a little bit of research, which I'll bring up now. Specifically, this bottom section that says your purchases at Amazon for family and friends are excluded from generating commissions. And then they use your IP and past shipping to and from to figure out that information. So I am assuming that all of the ones that I've gotten so far have been family and friends, and probably some of them are myself, not necessarily intentionally. Actually, definitely not intentionally, because I know that it wouldn't work if it was my own account. However, I wasn't deliberately trying not to. So I imagine some of those came in from my own purchases. So putting all of that to the side, I don't think I've earned anything yet from this. We'll see if this pans out to be anything of value. Nothing says over here in the earnings section, so that's why I also think that it probably isn't going to yield anything. But regardless, however it works, I think I have a fairly good understanding of it now, and I'm going to be watching this and seeing, if I get any additional clicks. I mean, even with the clicks I have been getting, there's a potential there for at least getting a sale or two here and there. But I do think there's a lot of potential here to make a reasonable amount of money, and you could potentially make an entire channel revolving around this. And so I'm going to explore this commission, Amazon associate link stuff a bit more and see how I progress with it. Maybe via some content videos. I'm not really sure. We'll see how that goes. But of course, I'll keep you guys updated on anything that I earn and what I'm doing to try to earn money from it and that sort of thing. Now, one thing I do know, I don't remember exactly the information for it, but I believe it was like 6 months or something like that. You have to get 3 purchases inside of 6 months or they close your account. So that's something I got to keep an eye on as well to make sure that I'm not losing the access to the account. So I got to at least get 3 of them out there in the next few months or so. Okay, so now we're going on to current stats and trajectory, which is kind of a silly section currently because the trajectory is so bad that it's basically worthless to look at, but I find it fun, so we'll go ahead and entertain it. So currently we're at 48 out of 1,000 subscribers. That's 4.8% of the way to monetization. Last month's monthly monetization, we were at 39, so we're up 9 from that. And watch time hours, we're at 25 out of 4,000. That's 0.63% of the way there, and that's up 11 from 14 from last month. Now, obviously, just thinking about those numbers a little bit, if last month was 14 watch time hours and this month is only 11 more, we're on a downward trend. Last month was 39 subscribers and this month is 48. We're on a downward trend. So definitely got to turn that around. I was already expecting the subscribers, though the watch time hours is a little sad, but we'll get it fixed. So this is data over the course of 67 days. So from September 28th until today, December 4th. And so based on that trajectory, if this continues at that rate for the 67 days, then it'll take 1,329 days to reach the sub goal. That's July 25th, 2028. Last month, it was March 15th, 2027. So we went forward a year. And 10,653 days for watch time hours. And that is February 3rd, 2054. And last month, it was February 14th, 2052. So we jumped another 2 years on that one. So, you know, we got to turn around the trend, start making an upward trend, at least for watch time hours. I mean, it's one thing the subscribers aren't as high, but the watch time hours should hopefully be an upward trajectory. So we'll need to get that turned around. But that's all we're going to cover for stats and trajectory. I'm hoping with some of the content videos, we can start to bump up the numbers a bit and see, you know, some new activity. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to join me on my journey from zero to YouTube hero. This is Create by Fire.